As of recording this voiceover, it has been a few days since I watched Kari Barker's Obsession. Now, I have seen it twice in preparation for this video because I think this is one of those rare films that genuinely gets better in the second viewing because there are so many subtle things you'd pick up knowing the outcome. This video is going to be filled with spoilers. You can probably see it in the title. It'll be in the description and I will mention it again here as well because I cannot emphasize this enough. Please, please, please watch this film in the cinema. It's an absolutely incredible cinema experience. It is made to be watched on the biggest screen possible. Alright, so that's all the logistics out of the way, so let's get to the meat of this video. Now, to me, this film is a generational film because not only it sits up so high when it comes to being a perfectly crafted horror film that genuinely gets under your skin and scares the living shit out of you, it also has multiple layers when it comes to social commentary about rape culture, bodily autonomy, consent, and the whole nice guy syndrome, which I'll touch on in the later stages of this video. We live in a time where there are so many movies, TV shows, and video games that do this thing where they market themselves as these ambitious projects that tackle important issues, but most of the time they come across forced and almost checklisty. Kari Barker in this film does the complete opposite. He tackles heavy and important themes that apply to the real world, but he also creates a very compelling film surrounding said themes. So it doesn't seem forced or heavy-handed, it genuinely is just a breath of fresh air in a world of wannabe poser creatives who only rely on controversy to market their projects rather than actually giving a shit about making a good project that tackles controversial topics and respects its audience. Right from the get-go, the title in this film alone I think is genius because the marketing implies that the obsession in the film is referring to Nikki's obsession with Bear and the escalation in her madness the longer she's with him, right? But after seeing the movie, it's very clear that the film title refers to Bear's obsession with Nikki because it is due to his selfish nature that everything is spiraling out of control in his life. From the opening scene, it is implied that how Bear feels about Nikki is more of an infatuation rather than love. You see him practicing a speech he prepared for Nikki with a waitress, while his friend Ian watches him and gives him feedback. And as soon as his friend implies that won't work, and it's cringe, Nikki won't like that, Bear himself says, "Don't make me do that again," implying that he himself isn't confident in what he says. He likes the idea of being with her, but it is not driven by feelings or love. It is purely, drum roll please, an obsession. What? Oh my god, that's the title of the film. What? Adding on to the fact that Bear is the actual obsessed one in this film, after his cat dies, he breaks down for a bit, buries the cat, and immediately goes to stalk Nikki on her socials. He then proceeds to get excited when he receives a text message from her, and he further gets elated when she calls him. Now, this genuinely paints his behavior as an obsessed stalker, since the grief of losing his pet immediately gets washed away as Nikki contacts him. It's like turning off a light switch. The film has only just started a few minutes ago, and Barker is already throwing hints at Bear turning into a massive red flag. It's subtle and clever scriptwriting from the get-go, and it only escalates from there. Alright, so let's touch on a line that Bear says in the car ride back to Nikki's place when he offers to drop her off. Nikki is talking about how she's writing a love story that isn't a romance, and Bear proceeds to say that they're the same thing, further illustrating Bear's warped understanding of love, challenging the audience to think that maybe his affection towards Nikki seems pure to him, but he himself has a warped idea of affection. Now, I want you guys to remember that scene in the car where she's talking about the story she's writing, how it's like a love story and not a romance. Because I'm gonna come back to it later, because upon my second viewing, I pieced together something that genuinely blew my mind. So keep that scene in mind, I will visit that scene later. And later on, when Nikki straight up asks Bear if he likes her, he refuses to admit it and deflects for them being just good friends. This was a very easy way out for him, to come clean with his feelings, but he still chose to hide them, which leads him to frustratingly wishing Nikki would love him more than anything else in the world in the next few minutes. Now, this entire sequence shows that Bear's feeling towards Nikki is truly just an obsession. He's just obsessed with her. He just wants her to react positively to how he feels without the risk or consequences of facing rejection. Hence, the cowardice in his response to Nikki directly asking him if he likes her, and the frustration in his phrasing when he makes the wish before he breaks the willow. Moving on to the very first time Nikki and Bear make out. So now this is like post possession, obviously. The real Nikki slips out for a split second and screams, only to be possessed back by the demon. Now, Bear's initial reaction is deflection yet again. He continues to say that Nikki kissed him first, you kiss me first, you kiss me first, trying to shift the blame away from him, further proving that the shy and the quote-unquote nice guy nature Bear is portraying in this film is more closer to cowardice. Now, let's talk about the scene where Bear gets a call from Ian at the diner when he's having a date with Nikki, right? And Ian says that Nikki's father is healthy and he never had cancer, right? And this leads to Bear confronting Nikki about it. She then crashes out. Absolutely fantastic crash out scene. Well done, Indy Navarrete.
No, 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 don't do that! I thought we were having a nice day!
We are. Sit
Why
down.
does it matter? I thought we were having a nice
We are.
day!
We are.
And eventually she calms down, right? Bear asks Nikki if she loves him more than anything in the world. Now, this is exactly the way he phrased his wish, and her response literally confirms that the odd behavior of a sudden affection is from the One Wish Willow. Now, at this point, he's fully aware that the wish worked. Bear then agrees with her that lying about that particular piece of information doesn't matter because they are together now. This then abruptly cuts to quite possibly one of the most disturbing scenes in the entire film, especially in the second viewing, because you know what the fuck is happening and you know all the subtle shit. We see Bear thrusting in and out of Nikki while he's on top of her, and they're both moaning in pleasure, but the camera slowly pulls closer to Nikki's face, and it is expressionless. Now, some of you may think, Tilina, what they are performing is called sex. Why did you particularly describe that act in the video as thrusting in and out? Let me tell you why I said that. You see, the act of sexual intercourse, or sex for short, is meant to be consensual. All the parties involved must consent prior to the act, and they must be in the right of mind to consent to sex. What is portrayed in this scene is not sex, it's simply a rape scene. Bear is clearly having the time of his life. The audible pleasure in Nikki's moans and the words are said by the entity or the demon, whatever you want to call it, reciprocating the pleasure of the sex, but the expressionless face is the real Nikki seeping through the cracks, realizing her friend, someone she confided in, is raping her, and she is genuinely helpless to stop it because she is in fact not in control of her bodily autonomy. As I mentioned before in the diner scene, before the abrupt cut to the rape scene, it is very clear that Bear is aware after piecing all the information together. He is aware that Nikki's behavior towards him is not normal. It is a fabricated idea of love via the willow, but he still refuses to actually help Nikki, and he continues to ignore his friends who are slowly starting to realize something sinister is going on. Which is why from this point on, Curry Barker is pretty much telling his audience that Bear has crossed the redeemable line. He genuinely is the real villain in this film, and poor Nikki, God bless her soul, is a victim because of this idiot's selfish desires. Further into the film, when Bear calls the One Wish Willow helpline, he doesn't even want to cancel his wish, he wants to change it or alter it. He still wants Nikki to be obsessed with him without the weirdness, which nails the point home how despicable he really is as a character. Even at this point, he is thinking about to change it to benefit his desires. not trying to find a solution for the hell that Nikki is being put through, then he's given a chance to talk to the real Nikki, right? And we all remember the scene, absolutely horrific scene. He can hear her screaming in agony. And what does he do? He just hangs up the phone call. Bear never loved Nikki. He just wanted the idea of being desired by her. I next want to analyze a specific bit in that incredible scene at the house party. See, when it comes to Nikki's turn during the Jenga game, she stands up and tells this really uncomfortable story about a sister and a brother who are so in love to the point where if that love ceases to exist, it will end up in mutilation. Now, incredibly creepy and uncomfortable scene. Again, fucking phenomenal. Burnt into my brain. Remember earlier in the video, I told you guys to remember the scene where Nikki is telling Bear that she's writing a love story that isn't a romance. I genuinely believe that story and the incestuous love story she mentions in the party is one and the same. And here's the mind-blowing part. The story that the real Nikki was writing was a story about her and Bear. Hence her mentioning that story is about love, not romance. Clearly insinuating that the fact that she genuinely loved him as a sibling. She specifically tells him in the car ride that she never gets to share about any of these things with anyone else. She genuinely cared for Bear in like that sisterly way, confirming she never had romantic feelings for him to begin with. But the story that the demon speaks of is a twisted take on Nikki's original story, where the sister and brother's love is made out to be romanticized, therefore incestuous. This is the kind of writing you get when the writer genuinely respects their audience, giving them the benefit of the doubt that they are able to piece certain things together instead of exposition dumping. Thank you, Karibaki, you're a fucking genius. Moving forward to yet another scene where Bear truly is shown to be a true villain is his interaction with the real Nikki before he heads out to meet Sarah in the car. See, in this scene, the real Nikki manages to speak to Bear, pleading that he should end her life, confirming that the real Nikki was in there the whole time, experiencing all these traumatic events, while genuinely being helpless to do anything about them. Now, what does Bear do? He refuses to do it, and he asks her about what's so bad about being with me. Yet again, I fucking hate this character, guys. Yet again, trying to paint himself as some victim in all of this, while the real victim is begging him to end her suffering. It is so heartbreaking from Nikki's perspective. Like, this film would have been so heartbreaking and much more scary if it was told through Nikki's perspective. Even at the very end, Bear is still shown to be a selfish coward. When he's stuck inside the bathroom, he refuses to commit suicide using the gun, and even after he takes the pills, he tries to gag them out. And he's only stopped because of Nikki's broken willow wish. And it's obviously implied to be the same wish that Bear made towards Nikki, but this time Nikki was wishing Bear to love him more than anything in the world. This film's ending is genuinely one of the biggest gut punch endings I have ever experienced. And like the last time I felt this sick to my stomach from an ending was probably like The Mist, I guess. But this one I think is far more tragic when it comes to overall implications. So after a short moment of mutual happiness shared between now both possessed Nikki and possessed Bear, Bear overdoses on the pills. Remember, because he never got to gag them out, he got stopped. And he dies a slow and painful death while possessed Nikki is in shambles. These guttural screams. And just before she pulls the trigger and is trying to kill herself, the real Nikki finally gets full control of her body. You know, because like the whole thing with the wishes is like if the person who asks for the wish dies, the wish gets cancelled or like overturned, whatever you want to call it. So when the real Nikki finally gets full control of her body, she sees the corpses of everyone she associated closely, scattered around in grisly fashion. Nikki truly has nothing left other than the lifetime full of trauma, a sickly feeling, and a mountain of evidence pointed at her to be the cause of all of this. When the authorities eventually show up, they don't like show the police showing up, but it is, I'm assuming, like implied because, you know, some shit went down It is so unapologetically tragic and heartbreaking. The villain truly did win at the end of this film, and he took down all his fucking friends with him. It's fucking nuts. Oh my days, Karibaka, I thought you were a comedian. What is this writing? And that about wraps up my take on the story, but I would quickly like to shout out the incredible cinematography and lighting in this film from a filmmaking perspective. Now, this film uses a lot of silhouettes for Nikki to portray that Bear is interacting with a shadow of her former self, not the real Nikki. And on top of that, this film has some of the best night cinematography I think I have ever feasted my eyes on. Major props to the camera and the lighting department, fucking killed it. Overall, in my opinion, this film is truly a modern masterpiece. It carries itself with so much confidence when it comes to being a great horror film, and it also carries itself with so much nuance when it comes to being a phenomenal film with sharp social commentary. If you want to turn your brain off and be shit scared while watching a film, this is the film for you. But if you appreciate subtle storytelling and piecing together information that forms a much more complex narrative that touches on timely topics, this also is the film for you. Hence why I think this is a generational film. Now, before I end this video, I want to talk about my appreciation for Indy Navarrete. I want to talk about her performance in this film. Her performance itself is also generational. Like, that monologue she delivers at Bear's house when she's holding the knife and telling him about how she would feel when she harms herself genuinely gave me goosebumps. I was fucking shit terrified. That is burnt into my brain permanently because of an incredible performance. You're gonna be a star, indeed. There is so much physicality and emotional range she has in this performance. I genuinely want her to be nominated for an Oscar. I'm not even exaggerating. She fucking deserves it. She's an absolute powerhouse. She's a scream queen, and I cannot wait to see what she gets up to next. And hope you guys enjoyed the video. I'll see you guys in the next one. Stay safe, take care, and for the love of God, shoot your fucking shot. Bless you all, and peace.